Coming up on a newscast, South Korea's inflation hits a fresh high, recording its fastest spike in over 2 decades. Key contributing factors include soaring prices of industrial products, and the trend is likely to continue. Despite warnings from China, U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visits Taiwan. In response, Beijing dispatched warplanes to the median line in the Taiwan Strait. South Korea's Interior Ministry launched a bureau today that will oversee the National Police Agency. The team will manage the appointment and promotions of senior-level officers, among other activities. Hello, it's good to have you with us. I'm Daniel Chen. Let's begin with our top story. South Korea's total number of COVID-19 infections could top 20 million overnight, meaning the country with a population of around 52 million could see 2 out of 5 people contracting the virus. Tuesday tallies stood at 111,000, pushing the total to exceed 19.9 million. An expert from the National Infectious Disease Crisis Response Advisory Committee has forecast the peak of the latest wave will pass by either this week or next. There's a small chance that the BA.2.75 variant, also known as Centaurus, will become the dominant strain. Inflation in South Korea rose to a level not seen in almost 24 years. Food and fuel prices are the key drivers. Concerns mount as the trend shows no signs of slowing down in the coming months. Jung helps us look beyond the digits.
South Korea's inflation hit a fresh high, recording its fastest pace of increase in nearly 24 years. Statistics Korea reported on Tuesday that the Consumer Price Index in July stands at 108.74. This is up 6.3% compared to the same period a year earlier, the fastest rise since November 1998. The country's consumer prices have seen on-year rises of more than 6% for 2 months in a row now, far higher than the government's target of 2%. Statistics Korea says the price rise is mostly due to soaring prices of industrial products, including petroleum goods.
The rise of 6.3% in July's consumer prices has been driven by the continued sharp rise in industrial goods, including petroleum goods, and the price of services, including dining out. Electricity, gas and water bills and prices of farm goods have also risen further.
Consumers have seen higher prices at the pumps in July. On average, prices of petroleum products surged by more than 35% on year. But the rise was slower than the previous month. Also, much of the July increase was driven by a jump in major items on people's grocery shopping lists, including prices of imported beef soaring close to 25% on year. The prices of vegetables also rose nearly 26% compared to a year earlier. Statistics Korea attributed this to the unfavorable weather and the increase in production costs.
With soaring prices, some consumers are looking for more affordable options. Some fruits and vegetables previously weren't sold because they're relatively ugly or have scratches, but now they're up for sale as a cheaper alternative.
I used to get several kinds of products, but these days I just get one. Even though there are scratches on the fruit, the scratches are just on the peels, so if they are safe to eat and taste the same, it doesn't matter, and I get cheaper ones.
One expert predicts the country's inflation will peak in the second half of this year, but he says it'll depend on the economic and geopolitical situation abroad.
Consumer prices are expected to peak in the third or fourth quarter of this year, but it will take a while to bring it down to the target level. South Korea's consumer prices go in line with those of the U.S.
As the government's priority is to stabilize prices, Bank of Korea Governor Lee Chang-yong said gradual 0.25 percentage point hikes in key interest rates would be adequate. 엄지영, Arirang News.
The National Assembly passed a bill that could help bring down fuel prices. This opens the possibility of cutting fuel taxes by as much as 50% when deemed necessary. Choi Min-jung explains further.
The South Korean government will now be able to do more to bring down fuel prices.
The price of oil has risen sharply since last year due to global economic uncertainties caused by the war in Ukraine. We are aiming to lessen the economic burden on ordinary people.
The National Assembly on Tuesday passed a bill enabling the government to cut fuel taxes by as much as 50% if necessary until 2024. That's up from the current limit of 30%. Practically speaking, because the way the system works, the tax cut could be increased from the current 37% to as much as 55%. Based on current prices, this would bring down the cost of a liter of gasoline by an additional 148 won, or about 11 US cents. This does not mean, however, that there will be an additional tax cut immediately. The National Assembly said the decision to implement another tax cut will be made by the government after taking into account inflation as well as international oil prices. South Korea's Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho said oil prices have recently been falling, so he hopes the extra tax cuts won't be needed. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Facing a widening internal crisis, the People Power Party plans to convene its National Committee to approve a new emergency leadership system. A complete overhaul was deemed necessary after most of the ruling bloc's leaders resigned. Lee Kyung-eun brings the updates.
Following the suspension of his party chairman and a series of setbacks, the ruling People Power Party is speeding up its push to launch an emergency leadership system. Declaring the current situation an emergency during a general meeting on Monday was the first step. The next step followed immediately. It held a spring council meeting on Tuesday morning and approved holding a national committee meeting, which has the ultimate right to appoint the interim leader. 4 out of 7 members approved. 2 members considered critical of the plan were absent. With the latest decision, a national committee meeting is likely to be held on Friday, followed by the launching of the leadership by next week at the latest.
The Standing National Committee will review whether the party qualifies to switch to emergency leadership or not. Then the National Committee will ultimately vote to approve the launch of such a system and appoint an interim leader.
The immediate hurdles are now cleared. The head of the National Committee's Ho Byung-soo shifted his stance and said he will work towards swiftly convening a meeting. The party is also planning to revise its rules to allow an acting chair appoint emergency leadership when the chairman's seat is not only vacant but also suspended. However, there are other things to consider regarding the role and duration. The interim leadership could run only until Chairman Lee Jun-seok returns in January. Or they could serve a shorter term and pave the way for an early national convention to elect new leadership, which is what usually happens in South Korean politics. This case, however, will effectively block Chairman Lee from returning to his post. Full leader Kwon Song-dong says he's still gathering opinions on the matter, as well as regarding the candidates for the interim leader. Young-eun, Arirang News.
The Interior Ministry officially launched a team that oversees the police, including select appointment and promotions. Despite a huge backlash from officers and the NPC, the new bureau is set to begin function as planned. Kim Do-yeon has the details.
Despite a strong backlash from South Korean police officers, the Ministry of Interior and Safety has launched the Police Bureau to oversee the National Police Agency. The 16-member team began work on Tuesday and will be led by Kim Sun-ho, the former head of the National Security Investigation Bureau. The team will be managing appointments and promotions of senior-level police officers as well as overseeing policies regarding the agency's day-to-day activities. The Interior Minister reiterated that the government will not interfere with police investigations.
The Interior Minister has not been involved in the works of the police in the past, so it seems like that will be the case going forward. As we continue to work within the boundaries of the law and the Constitution, the relationship between the ministry and police will move in a positive direction.
Despite his words, the move is a significant change to the current law enforcement structure.
The opening of the Police Bureau means that for the first time in 31 years, the Interior Ministry will have an official channel directly under its authority that oversees police activities and policies.
Such a function within the government was removed back in 1991 because police had been used by authoritarian regimes before that to crack down on innocent civilians. But there have been concerns over the government being able to hold this level of authority over the current police, who has recently gained much of its investigative power from the prosecution. Strong disapproval also came from the Korean National Police Commission, an independent organization created to serve as a watchdog of the police agency 31 years ago, when the changes were made.
This can't lead to a minister controlling the work of public safety. That's what we found during our review before making the decision.
The chair also said the commission was looking into whether the process of creating this team was legal and constitutional, as major decisions regarding the nation's police needs approval from the commission. To this, the Interior Minister said the right checks have already been carried out and no violations were found. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Come Wednesday, top diplomats of Southeast Asian nations will meet in Cambodia to discuss the crisis in Myanmar, Ukraine, and issues related to North Korea. Seoul's foreign minister will also be in Phnom Penh for an East Asia Summit foreign ministers meeting and ASEAN Regional Forum, also known as ARF. The ASEAN Plus 3 meeting, which includes ASEAN members South Korea, China, and Japan, will also be a part of the 3-day event. This is the only multilateral security forum which North Korea participates in. The regime's top envoy in Indonesia, An Gwang-il, will be representing Pyongyang. FMs of South Korea, US, China, and Japan, and Russia will gather for the first time in about a month. South Korea's defense chief travels to Australia. Lee Jong-sub and his Australian counterpart will discuss cooperation in the arms industry as a follow-up to their meeting at the Shangri-La Dialogue in June. During the 5-day trip, the duo also plan to visit Geelong. That's where the production plant of Hanwha Defense is under construction to manufacture its self-propelled howitzers. The Australian government has signed a deal worth more than $700 million to acquire them. The Korean firm also aims to export its armored vehicle Redback to the country. The UN has been reviewing the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. Countries expressed grave concerns over the threat posed by a potential North Korean nuke test. Germany and France call for an extra push to address the issue. Kim Yo-sun has the latest.
The international community has expressed concerns over North Korea's nuclear program at the 10th NPT Review Conference in New York. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken highlighted Monday that the world faces a critical moment amid fears of a potential North Korean nuclear test.
As we gather today, Pyongyang is preparing to conduct its 7th nuclear test.
This comes as Washington and Seoul believe that the regime has completed preparations for a nuclear test, which could come at any time. Seoul's Deputy Minister for Multilateral and Global Affairs, Ham Sang-uk, stressed that addressing issues surrounding North Korea's nuclear program are of great importance. Speaking at the meeting held at the UN headquarters, he also criticized the regime for being the only country in the world to abuse the NPT scheme to publicly develop its nuclear weapons. Germany's top diplomat also called for a continued push to end the North's nuclear ambitions.
Mr. President, North Korea's nuclear weapons program. That means pushing for the complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of the North Korean peninsula and the implementation of all relevant UN Security Council resolutions.
On the same day, the U.S. and allies, including Britain and France, also urged Pyongyang to halt development of nuclear and missile capabilities in accordance with UN Security Council resolutions. The officials also expressed concerns over threats posed by Iran as well as Russia. Blinken noted that the landmark NPT agreement is, quote, under increasing strain due also to the actions of Russia. Attending the meeting, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida urged the international community to join forces to realize a world free of nuclear weapons. As the first Japanese leader to attend the conference, he said Tokyo will contribute $10 million to set up a special UN fund to help young people learn about atomic bombs through visits to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, two Japanese cities that were devastated by U.S. atomic bombs in August 1945. He also called on nuclear states to enhance the transparency of their nuclear arsenals. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
Despite warnings from China, U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi headed to Taiwan on Tuesday as part of a high-profile Asia tour. Beijing dispatched warplanes to the median line in the Taiwan Strait. The communist state has also been holding drills, which reflects its repeated warning over the week that Washington will pay the price if Pelosi's trip went ahead. The White House has not backed the House Speaker's visit, as recognizing Taiwan as an autonomous power has been a thorny issue in terms of bilateral ties with China for years. On Tuesday, the U.S. Navy positioned 4 of its warships in the waters east of Taiwan, but claimed they were routine deployments. Elsewhere around the world, Myanmar's military government extended the state of emergency that upholds its power for 6 more months. Its leader promised to follow through on some of the points agreed with ASEAN more than a year ago, none of which have been fulfilled so far. Shin Yeon reports.
The state of emergency in Myanmar has been extended by 6 months. A state-run newspaper on Monday quoted the country's military chief, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, saying this was to strengthen what he called the genuine and disciplined multi-party democratic system, which he says was the desire of the people. The ruling State Administration Council had first declared a state of emergency when Senior General Min Aung Hlaing seized power via a coup in February 2021. They toppled the democratically elected Aung San Suu Kyi government and has since killed more than 2,000 civilians, according to a Thailand-based human rights organization. Witnessing the violence in the country, the international community, mainly ASEAN countries, have called on Myanmar to immediately put an end to the violence. Last April, 9 ASEAN leaders met with Min Aung Hlaing and composed a 5-point consensus. They ranged from ending violence in the country to maintaining dialogue via special envoy visits to Myanmar. However, a year has passed and Min Aung Hlaing has been accused of defying each point. That's why in a televised speech broadcast on Monday, the junta chief said he would meet some of the points in the consensus within this year. He explained that the military was only unable to implement the 5-point consensus because there wasn't enough stability as a result of internal riots and because of the ongoing pandemic. Exact details on which parts of the consensus he will address first have not yet been revealed. Shin Yeon, Arirang News.
South Korea pledged $200,000 in humanitarian aid to the Philippines, which is recovering from a deadly earthquake that hit Luzon last week. As of Monday, the 7.0 magnitude quake has reportedly left 10 people dead and 375 injured, including damage to property and infrastructure. Roughly 300,000 are affected. Seoul's foreign ministry expressed hopes the assistance can help stabilize the victims' lives. There are no plans to change mandatory military service rules to provide exemption to BTS. That's coming from the nation's defense chief, who also mentioned alternative services off the table as well. But there could be a way for the K-pop group to perform while serving in the military. Kim Ji-yeon shares with us his remarks.
During a Parliamentary Defense Committee meeting on Monday, South Korea's Defense Minister Lee Jong-seop said the issue of BTS's military service can be handled without breaching the principle of fairness and equity. Minister Lee said he believes there is a way to give BTS an opportunity to continue to perform for the benefit of national interests, adding if they join the military, he believes there will be a way to allow them to practice and join overseas performances. All able-bodied Korean men are required to serve 18 to 24 months of mandatory military service. But some receive exemptions for noteworthy contributions to the nation. Currently, exemptions to compulsory military service in music are granted to those who have won the first prize in an international competition, such as pianist Cho Sung-jin, winner of the 2015 International Chopin Piano Competition. Despite support from fans, accomplishments by K-pop stars don't qualify. During the meeting, ruling People Power Party representative Song Il-jung stressed the need to create a system to serve national interests so more K-pop stars like BTS can continue without the long breaks from their career due to compulsory military service. He said BTS generates an estimated $43 billion of economic benefits over the space of a decade. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
J-Hope performed at the Lollapalooza Music Festival to rave reviews from local media. An article in the Chicago Sun-Times said the BTS member commanded the stage with his trademark vocals and choreography as a solo act. Rolling Stone also gave praise, saying that J-Hope became the first South Korean artist to headline a major American music festival. Consequences of Sound emphasized J-Hope kicked off a new era for BTS. Lollapalooza took place in Grand Park from Thursday to Sunday. Other headliners included Dua Lipa and Green Day. In the nation's capital, there are plenty of calm, peaceful places to relax. They're not hard to get to either. To coincide with the 2022 Seoul Relax Week, a special list of 100 recommended spots is released. Kim Jong-sil outlines where some of them are.
Look at these traditional Korean houses. Are they in Jeonju? A city famous for these types of houses? No, they're in Seoul, one of the busiest cities in the world. And to find them, you just have to go to the right place.
Less than half an hour drive from the hustle and bustle of downtown Seoul lie beautiful traditional Korean houses called hanok, like this one behind me. Visitors can come, enjoy Korea's 14th century architectural style, and spend the night in tranquility.
This particular guest house in Seoul's northwestern Eunpyeonggu district combines Korean tradition with Western culture. The dining room, for example, incorporates a Western dining style, so while the location is so traditionally Korean, you can also feel somewhat as if you're at a European restaurant. The view of the Bukhansan mountain is another charming feature of this lodging house, but it also offers a range of programs for visitors to enjoy.
At Eunjeongan, you can enjoy picnic, breakfast, morning yoga, and food spa. Welcome to Eunjeongan.
But if you haven't even got time to drive 30 minutes, there's another option right in the center of Seoul. This one has been around in this exact location for over 8 decades. What's unique about this property is that it's eco-friendly. You can rarely find disposables in the room, and served breakfast is organic as well.
We are located in the center of the busiest part of Seoul, but it's somewhere calm. Here, you can enjoy the stark contrast between modern skyscrapers and this antique building.
You can visit the 2022 Seoul Relax Week website for more information. If you take a little time and travel outside your comfort zone, you'll find a whole new relaxing world even in one of the busiest cities in the world. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Another round of showers and heavier downpours for central regions will move in overnight. Northern central regions will see up to 80 millimeters of rainfall. The Samut-Patan area, Gangwon-do province, and parts of the south will see 20 to 60 millimeters. Keep in mind that thunder and lightning will also accompany at times. Along with the rainfall, an intense heat wave will continue to take over across the nation. More scorching conditions are forecast for parts of Gyeongsang-do province, where sensible temperatures will surpass 33 degrees. Sporadic showers will raise the moisture levels in the air, making conditions feel much hotter than the actual readings. To avoid any heat-related illnesses, drink plenty of water and try to stay indoors. Tropical nights will appear for most regions. Lows in Seoul and Busan will be starting off at 26 degrees. Daily highs in Seoul will be reaching 31. Daejeon and Gwangju 32. Daegu will be scorching hot at 35 degrees. The pattern of heat wave and tropical nights will continue for the remainder of the week. On Friday, the capital region will see showers. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.